call to order the regular meeting for Mount Diablo Unified School District Board of Education for August 26, 2019. We will start with roll call. Mr. Lawrence.
Here.
Ms. Mason.
Here.
Ms. Mayo.
Here.
Ms. Callum.
Here.
And Ms. Durkee is here as well. And Ms. Mayo is here. She's not in Dunsmere, so we're happy to have her with us. We start with public comment. The public may address the board concerning items that are scheduled for discussion during closed session only. These presentations are limited to 3 minutes each, or a total of 30 minutes for all speakers, or the 3-minute limit may be shortened. Speakers are not allowed to yield their time. And we always add on a little bit if you've never been here before or participated in public comment. We're governed by what's called the Brown Act, and what that means is our job is to listen respectfully, to listen to all the public comments, but we are not allowed to respond, so just don't take it personally. We're just looking at you. And particularly items that are in closed session are highly confidential, so the board members are not at liberty at all to discuss those issues at all in public. So we're going to try and, we've got a number of cards, we're going to try and respectfully let everybody have their 3 minutes. As you're listening, if you feel like your point's been made already, you don't need to go as long as 3 minutes, or don't even, you can pass. You certainly can choose to do that, but we'll just go right through the stack here. And we'll start with Darcy Matthews.
Perfect. Good evening. How are you guys today? So, I just want to say, Deborah, I've helped you with your campaign, I've helped Cheryl with your campaign, and to be perfectly honest and clear, I have yet indeed sued this district and prevailed. I want you to know that what is before you with Doug Scott has got to be remedied. It's got to be rectified. This is not okay. These people are here and they represent the heart and soul of this community. And I want to say to you, your children are watching. These people's kids and their grandkids are here. Mr. Scott has been here for 28 years, and I believe he falls under the American Disabilities Act, and I think you better think long and hard back to your time under Gary McHenry, Matt Jill Darlington, and Ron Henrique, what went on in this district and what really happened. I hope we're not coming back full circle to the mistakes that have been made before in these chambers. Look up my case. Look up what happened. Look up that you spent $250,000 of the people's money to fight a little housewife from Pleasant Hill because her children were disabled.
Thank you. Dorothy England. I forgot to explain the lights. So
She
I'm
knows.
just familiar with them, but the green light, and then when you have, I think, the red light, the yellow light, just like driving, and then the red light with the times up.
Great, thank you. Good evening, members of the board. My name is Dorothy England, and I have 3 students who have graduated from Pleasant Hill Elementary, then Pleasant Hill Middle School, and College Park High School in 2006, 2008, and 2012. And they are all doing really well. All 3 have pursued careers in the science field. The youngest is 25 now in her 3rd year of veterinary medicine at UC Davis. So, we certainly appreciate all the hard work of our fine teachers, and I think all of us remember with fondness our best teachers are the ones who made us feel really good, or encouraged us, really gave us that sense of passion for something. And for many students, Mr. Scott is that teacher. That was the case for my oldest daughter, who to this day, she's traveled to the Galapagos, she's gone all over Latin America, ended up marrying a young man from Ecuador, and she's a nurse at John Muir Hospital now, speaks fluent Spanish, and has such a passion for people and the environment. And a lot of that I do attribute to the teachers that she's had. So I wanted you to understand that Mr. Scott is one of those teachers for a number of students. And so I hope you will consider all the good, the many 28 years that he's been a wonderful instructor and has such expertise in the area. I know the district is short on, always looking for really good science teachers, math teachers, Spanish teachers. And so we really need to treasure the resources we have and do what we can to retain them. And many of you also received my correspondence earlier today, and I appreciate that a few have reached out and confirmed a receipt. I understand you can't communicate back on something like that, but I am concerned about potential for Brown Act violations in this case, as well as other rights that he may have as a teacher, whether it's his contract or an agreement with the district on reasonable accommodations. And so I'm hoping you really look to your hearts, and I know you all want to do what is right by Mr. Scott and by the students of this district. And thank you for your service, and good luck with this one. It's a tough one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jenny Dye.
Hello, I'm a College Park mom. I have a freshman son, and my daughter is a junior. She's here today in support of Mr. Scott also. On my son's schedule this year, we saw Mr. Scott, and I was thrilled because my daughter had him when she was a freshman, and it was the best teacher she's honestly had in her life. She came home every night at dinner and talked about all the things she was learning. She found fungus or algae, I don't even know, but she found something in the yard, and she says, "Oh, Mom, I think this," and she was so excited. She's like, "I'm gonna take it to school and show it to Mr. Scott." We want our kids to be excited. We want our girls to get excited about science, and he does that. He is an inspiring person. I was so happy to find out my son was going to get inspired by him, but currently has a substitute who specializes in math, and that's not what he needs. He needs Mr. Scott in his room, making that difference for him. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Jim Runyon.
Good evening, I'm Jim Runyon. I taught at College Park for 24 years with Doug Scott, primarily physics and earth science. I was often criticized for being too structured and punctual, and Doug tended to be the opposite, but we always had passion for science. We spent a lot of time talking about science. He had a very thorough knowledge in all fields of science, so I really appreciated that. I noticed up here on the wall, it says every school day counts, attend today, achieve for a lifetime. So I know with Doug being out of the classroom for possibly 6 months, it's going to impact 150 students over that period of time that they will not get back. They won't get a substitute. They'll have the knowledge and skills that Doug Scott has. Additionally, it says bully-free zone. My sense is that Doug Scott is being bullied because of what happened in the past with grade changes. I know I was called in the past by a principal, 2 vice principals, and at other times to change the grades because of parental pressure, and also because the administrators didn't want to have to deal with that student failing. So I know that's a problem for other teachers also. I know that he's never been, what I'm aware of, he's never been dangerous in the classroom, and never allowed 500 students onto the campus that end up punching teachers, including myself, and endangering students and staff. As I said, he just has a great love of science every single day, and he's got a great deal of knowledge and experience. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Jongers.
I'm Christine Youngins, and thank you for your time and for listening to us all. I went to 2 different high schools, so my junior year I met Doug Scott, and really just appreciated his knowledge of science and his passion. And I'm one of his Facebook friends, so this is how I found out about this particular situation. And I just want to say that I've always noticed that he just has a great sense and love for the students. He really wants to do what's best for the students, and he's very passionate about science. And I learned a lot from him just on his posts, and so I just feel like it would be unfair for him to be dismissed over something that might be a parental issue. And the other thing I just want to say is that I work for Wells Fargo, and I've been there 20 years, and we have a very inclusive environment and make sure that everyone is appreciated for their differences. And Doug looks different than a lot of other people, and he might come across as someone that the parents don't want to see, but it's important for the students to appreciate and love all their teachers for who they are. And just thank you for your time.
Thank you. Melissa Ridings.
Hi, thank you. I'm a teacher at College Park, and last year on my prep period, second period, I just wanted to go and check out on him. I knew he had just lost a great grandnephew, an infant. So I knew he was going through a rough time, so I just wanted to check in on him and pop in and say hi. But he was right in the middle of a lesson, and the lesson that he was giving, he called me like a month later and said that there was complaints about it, that it was inappropriate, and that and there was accusations that just weren't true from what I saw in that second period lesson. So I just wanted to defend him in that. I know I wrote a letter for him. I hope he has it. Maybe his lawyer has it as well. But I just wanted, from what I saw, that I saw nothing inappropriate or anything that was being accused of him in that lesson at all. And also, I just wanted to say, like, as a teacher, I'm also an alumni. I never had him. All three of my brothers had him. They all loved him. He came to my wedding. He came to my dad's funeral. You know, he goes to every single athletic event that we have, like every football game. He's always there. He's very supportive outside of the classroom with all of our students. So I just wanted to throw that up.
Thank you. Chloe Van Buckert.
Hello. I don't have a lot to say, but Mr. Scott was one of my teachers my freshman year. I'm a senior now. And he was one of the few teachers that I really liked my freshman year. I've never liked science, but he is a teacher that has made me really like science. I came in and I learned something new every day with him. I was really excited to go to his class and just learn whatever he had to teach that day. I have odd pets, and when I would tell him about them, he was really excited about those. He wanted to know more about those, and he would teach me more about those animals. But he made class really fun, and he was always really supportive. He was a great teacher, and I think losing him would be a real big problem because he's a teacher that really cares about the class he teaches. So I think it would be a really bad thing to lose him. Thank you.
Thank you. I think it's Isaac. I'm going to say Fox. I see Fox. That part I can get. Sorry about that.
Hi, I'm Isaac Minio Fox, and I was in Mr. Scott's biology class freshman year. He was like my most favorite teacher. He was so enthusiastic with everything that he did. Like, he used to cry during classrooms about flowers. Like, he was that enthusiastic about it. He's just always been my favorite teacher. If he was gone from the school, I don't know what we would do. He went to one of my track meets. He just loved like everyone. I've never thought anything bad of him. I learned a lot from him. I was always like so, I don't know how to explain it. I was so like into everything that he said. He made everything so enjoyable, made everything just so interesting. But yeah, that's all I gotta say.
All right, thank you very much. Angie
Hi, I'm Angie Tuatagaloa. I'm a teacher in this district also. I wanted to say welcome to Mount Diablo. Mr. Scott was my biology teacher over 20 years ago. Everything I learned about dominant and recessive genes, I learned from him. I'll never forget his lessons on how cell parts work together like a factory and how a virus can trick or hide from an immune system. It's no accident that I remember these lessons over 20 years later. It's no accident that I've taught my own students for the last 11 years that every day is Earth Day. Mr. Scott is unconventional. He has more passion and excitement for his subject matter than any teacher I had ever seen. He kept us captivated and inspired. But I was also expected to work hard for the B I got in his class. My graduating class of '98 had a lot of deaths over the years. While we were memorializing them leading up to our 20-year reunion, Mr. Scott was there saying, "Oh no, not Zavala. Oh man, D'Antono too?" Over 20 years later, it is clear how much he cares about his students. Not only did he remember us, he checked in with us. Dismissing him would be an immeasurable loss to our district, and I strongly urge you to reconsider letting an exemplary and impactful teacher like him go. Thank you.
Thank you. Hannah Carter.
Hi, I'm Hannah Carter. My son took Mr. Scott's biology class in 2011. At the time, I wrote a letter of thanks to the district because he made such an impact on my son, and I felt that letters of complaint shouldn't only be written. Thank you letters are really in order from time to time. This was the first science STEM class that my son took at College Park. He's gone on to excel at DVC. He'll be transferring to a UC campus this fall for electrical engineering. He had just about a 4.0 all the way through DVC, and if it wasn't for Mr. Scott, I don't know how things would have turned out, because 9th grade was a little bit of a rocky transitional year, and I had just recovered from kidney cancer the year prior, so my son was under a lot of stress. And Mr. Scott turned things around. I will confess that I checked his notebooks at night to see how things were going, because I was really worried about his biology class. You see, I had just taken biology myself. I'm a late bloomer in terms of degree. I have a BA now in social science with education concentration. And teaching kids is really very, very important to me, and the way that it comes across. Mr. Scott got through. I checked the notes. I was amazed at the strength of the curriculum. I was amazed at the engagement and the fact that they did a lot of lab work. And this is where it really gets so real. Courses that I took as part of my BA brought me in contact with cutting-edge research on brain learning, the role of emotions in the classroom setting, the psychology of the learning process. And what I learned of Mr. Scott's classroom and teaching style is a perfect illustration of those ideals. There was a book in particular by Eric Jensen, Brain-Based Learning, The New Paradigm of Teaching. I love that book. He said most of what you think is important in your life that you really know, you learn through experience, from doing something, not from a chalkboard or a textbook. And in this regard, Doug Scott could be the poster child for brain-based learning. You know, I looked today at the number of comments from young people that are taking the time to comment on a petition regarding this matter to reinstate Mr. Scott. And there were, at last count, over 200 comments and 550 signatures over a 48-hour period of the weekend, when not everybody had found out about this. I mean, if you were to put a ticker on that, I don't know what it will be in a week if there were time for that message to reach the community, because his impact is lasting. Those 28 years, I'm seeing parents, I'm seeing students, I'm seeing current students, and everybody. And I'm done.
Thank you very much.
I will say that I'm concerned that this is not a legacy that ends the way the current principal has intended it to end. I am outraged by those actions, not your actions, but what has been done from what I've heard. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Jan Bunton.
Good afternoon. I too work at College Park, and I've been there for 24 years working with Doug Scott. And Doug Scott is an amazing teacher. I have had hundreds, if not thousands, of students tell me how much they've learned in this class and the things that they've taken with them into their careers. I have also seen 3 out of 4 of our last principals railroad Doug Scott and pick on him mercilessly. Doug Scott may not look like the rest of us. He might wear blue jeans and a leather vest, he might drive a motorcycle and hang his coffee cup and his keys on his pants. But then again, most people don't look like me either. Doug has given his heart and his blood to that school. He goes to every event for those kids, he supports them in every way he can. And the accusations I've heard, and I've heard from students, that they're not true. Students who were in the classroom when these things happened. And I urge you to take a long, hard look at the things that were said and prove them to be false. Because it's not fair for a student for a teacher to be picked on and to be railroaded because he doesn't fit the right mold. Thank you.
Thank you. Ryan Calasardo.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for your time today. I've known Doug Scott for 40 years, since 7th grade. We went to junior high, we went to high school, we went to college together. I've been with Doug on numerous occasions when we're out, and I have a whole piece here that I'm just going to blow out the window. Doug Scott is an exceptional human being. We are out on the town, we're out having dinner. Every time I'm out with Doug Scott, at least 3 to 5 kids, and I'm not exaggerating, come up to us and say, hey, Mr. Scott, what day is Earth Day? And it's the same thing. And, you know, is a guy that is being potentially dismissed, does this sound like that type of guy? In 2009, he was voted by the students to give a speech at the graduation. Linda, I know you were there. It was a very good speech. It was all about the wisdom and knowledge that Doug possesses. And, you know, in 1996 and 1998, 20-year class reunions, Doug was asked and invited by students. I don't remember really any of my teachers from that long ago, but not only did they remember him, they invited him. How often do teachers get invited to class reunions? Not very often. Does this sound like a person that doesn't have the qualities that are necessary to educate our kids? I have 3 boys of my own. They're 12, 16, and 18. And they absolutely love when Mr. Scott comes to our house. They learn something every time. These kids are all straight A students. And I'll tell you, I continue to learn when I go with Doug. He and I go, when we spend time together, we go out, we walk trails together. He's still teaching me, you know? I didn't understand the importance of the environment as an adult person in college. When I left Humboldt State, where we went to school together, I left there a completely different person. My kids are now growing up because of this man, and they're being taught the right things for our environment and the right things to do as a person. And I'm asking you today to look closely at this case, look at the record. Look at the details of what's going on here, the accusations. There's a lot in this regarding the dismissal and some grade change type activity. I want you to look very closely at that because it's in there, and Doug Scott has a case here, and he should not be dismissed. And thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Dennis? Put your writing back up.
When someone is gunning for you, it doesn't matter what you do. They'll find what's wrong with it. When someone is on your side, it almost doesn't matter what you do. They'll find something right with it. When Doug Smith is gunned for, we have to look why. Why is he being gunned for right now? And you, as a board, I think are being misserved from information. And I respect that you have a difficult position to make this decision. But I do recommend that you take the time to learn some facts. The crux of this problem really grew out of a grade that a kid did not earn. And Doug was not willing to give that person a grade that they did not earn. And yet the parents went to the principal and said, come on, she needs us to graduate. And so the principal changed the grade. And Doug went back and said, no, look what this student did. Look at the opportunities I gave. Look at the extra credit possibility. Look at all of the facts. And they say, you're right, okay. And they changed the grade back. And then Doug walked out, and they changed the grade back again so she could graduate. Well, I'm sure that launches that kid into the world on the right foot. While Doug was trying to fight for her excellence, that parents were fighting for push her through. And the school went with push her through. That's horrible. That's not serving that kid. That's not serving our community. That's really not serving those parents. And so now what do? Doug goes and speaks the truth to power. And what does the power do? It revs things up to try to get him out. And comes to you and says, this guy should be out of here. Why should he be out of here? Because he told the truth? You have an opportunity to decide whether you want to reward the person that pushed a kid through school and lied, or the person that said, that's not right. And right now, the person that's in the guillotine is the person that stood for the kid's greatness. Even if it wasn't achieved, he stood for honesty. What are you going to stand for? With this young man, 28 years, and he might be out of a job, and you look back here and see people that are saying, this is the greatest teacher I've ever had. So what I'd like you to see is a letter that my daughter wrote. She can't be here today. She's down in Los Angeles. She's a partner at a major law firm. And she credits Doug Scott with being the most important influence in her life, which makes the father feel a little weak, the most important influence in her life in having her choose college and then law school. And she wrote this. And with your permission, I'd like to present you this letter from Erin. And thanks so much for allowing all of us to be here and speak.
Thank you. Janice Anderson.
My name is Janice Anderson. I'm a College Park High School graduate, class of 1997. I've prepared something because I'm not much of a public speaker. Every day is Earth Day. We are all made of stardust, and the periodic table of elements is a work of art. These are just a few things that I learned as a student of Mr. Scott's 26 years ago. More importantly, there are things I remember learning, which is a testament to his ability and enthusiasm for teaching. I was lucky enough to have him freshman and sophomore years, and can honestly say he's one of the very few positive memories I have of College Park High School. If you asked me how many teachers made a positive impact on my life in my time there, I would say 3. 3 out of dozens. If you asked me how many I would show up to a school board meeting for, the answer is 1. In addition to being one of the few classes I looked forward to attending, I looked forward to having Mr. Scott as a teacher because he treated his students like people, not children. When my dad died senior year, Mr. Scott was the only teacher I wasn't currently a student of to reach out to me and treat me like a human suffering an immense loss. When applying for a college scholarship, which I received, I asked only Mr. Scott to write a recommendation because I knew he would speak to my potential, not just my test scores. His encouragement was exactly what I needed at a difficult time in my life, and quite frankly, if not for him, I may not have graduated. And I did. And despite what my high school counselor advised, I went on to graduate college and attend grad school in New York City. I've kept in touch with Mr. Scott somewhat over the years, and have seen how time and frustration has dimmed his spirit and his enthusiasm for his profession. I wish that students today could know the man whose classroom I walked into 26 years ago, but they won't, and they probably never will because of the bureaucracy of this district and the change in parental influence in the classroom. Students need people to challenge them, they need people to hold them accountable, they need people in their lives who don't look or think like everyone else in their lives. Because high school is supposed to be preparing students for the real world. The number of former students who have written about his impact on them, and in many cases their decision to pursue science as a career, is evidence of his character as a person and his passion as a teacher. 26 years of students learning the importance of protecting the planet we live on, its animals and ecosystems, cannot possibly be a bad thing. In fact, it's more important now than ever before. Losing a teacher like Mr. Scott would be a disservice to students and the community as a whole. I hope the administration and the school board carefully reconsiders the actions being taken against him. I've also got letters from friends who couldn't be here, texts that were sent to Mr. Scott. He didn't want to respond to them because he didn't want anything to seem inappropriate. And people have asked why he's not here today, and he mentioned to me that it felt like being at his own funeral, and with the end of his career possibly being at, the precipice, that's really not far off. So if I can give you these.
Thank you very much. I have Russell Joe.
No, it's Russell.
Good evening. I I am a former student of Mr. Scott, and then I also work at College Park. I went to school with Jessica. I wasn't planning on speaking tonight, and even when Ms. Bunton told me about the yellow cards, I kind of almost reconsidered, because I too am one of those teachers that gets bullied by our current administration, and to be able to speak out is one of those things where I have to, you know, look at my mortgage, look at my job, and look at my position and where I'm at because of, you know, what potential retaliations may happen. And then I started to think about Doug and what he was strong enough to speak out for the truth, and he was strong enough to stick up for himself and the integrity of not only his grade book, but all of the teachers at College Park. And if we don't say anything, then we're part of the problem. And so that's why tonight I'm here speaking to you guys, and I don't know exactly what went on, and I can't speak to what was inappropriate or appropriate or whatnot, but I do know that when I was in his class, my freshman year, I learned a ton, right? That's been said. And I've been a colleague for 13 plus years, and I continue to learn. And I continue to see that, you know, he fights for what he believes in. I had the shirt that I had made when I was coaching football. It says I bleed purple. And if anybody bleeds purple, it's Doug. And I mean, to not be a coach, to not, you know, be involved in the athletic side of things, and to be at every event. I can't tell you enough how much that means to the kids and to the students and to even colleagues and coaches alike. That he's always there with the best interest of the kids, and for the you know 20 some odd years that I've known him, he's done an immense job of doing what's right. And I can speak for the current, you know, situation that I'm in, and our administration is a bully, and they've forced me to change grades, and they've forced me to not give tests, and they've forced me to make sure students get through, and I haven't been strong enough to fight for it, and it is a tragedy, and it needs to stop. So I am proud of him, and I respect him greatly for what he has done for the community and what he has stood up for.
Thank you. Jacob Fleming.
Forgive me, I have a couple disorganized notes on my phone here. He was never one of my teachers. I went to College Park freshman and sophomore year, that would be 2011, 2012. I actually went to an open house. During that open house, we visited his classroom, and it was different than the other classrooms. It was a little darker, but it was welcoming. There's stuff to look at everywhere. And then he approached me, and he's like, you know, what are you looking at? And we had a genuine conversation. All I can say is that every time I saw him in the hallways after that, how's it going? How you doing? It was heartwarming. You remember the good teachers, you remember the bad teachers, you remember, you know, what stood out in class. When you think about College Park, if you were a student, you think about the great teachers that you had. If you're a local, you think about, you know, who's been there a while or who has an impact on the school. I definitely think that Mr. Scott had that impact, not only on the kids, but as on the school and the genre that he taught, which was I think that some people thought that the meeting was going to be later, and that's why that we don't have as many people that were on social media that were here to support him. You know, Ken's kids tend to push against nice teachers. Teachers that are nice, they tend to take advantage of that sometimes. I wasn't the best student when I went to College Park, and I had a couple of teachers in this room here, and they taught me some things, but it was nice to have teachers there for you to support you, not only in the academic situation, but emotionally. like I said, when he saw me in the hallways, he made sure, how's it going? So to have that genuine person there, and then also to be there to teach, I think that really helps the future of our students. So I have a couple other things to say, but my brain's a little distracted, so I'll end on that. Thank you guys.
Thank you very much. Madeline Matthews.
Hello, my name is Madeline Matthews. I am a College Park alumni. I graduated in the class of 2014. I had Mr. Scott in biology in 2012 when I was a sophomore. And I just have great things to say about him, and I could go on and on, but I don't want to waste your time, so I just kind of want to get to the main points that I have of all the classes, of all the teachers I've had, of all 42 teachers. He was probably the teacher that if you said, who was your favorite, it was Mr. Scott. He definitely did not look like your conventional teacher, and that's why I personally feel like he was one of those teachers that was like one of the most relatable teachers. You could go up to him and he was another person. He wasn't a teacher in a suit that you felt like you couldn't approach. He was just another person. The year I had him, he got in a motorcycle accident. He rides a motorcycle to school and he hit a deer. And I remember him not being in the classroom for 2 days maybe, and then he hobbled through the door on his crutches in a cast. And his devotion to being there for his students was what I think rubbed off on a lot of people, and it especially rubbed off on me. I'm now currently at PVC. I'm going to be majoring in environmental science and plant science with an emphasis in horticulture, and some of the things that he taught us resonate exactly with what I'm learning right now. And some of the things that he learned I've also picked up along the road. At one point we looked at hair under a microscope, and I ended up going through to the ROP program here at College Park, and I became a licensed cosmetologist. So many of the things that he taught us were applicable in more than one situation in life. So I really do thank him for all that he's done, and I hope you guys know how much he means to us as students, as parents, as other teachers, as coworkers. But he's one of those people that he rubbed off on you, and it wasn't really until later in life that you realize the good things that he was teaching you, and that the bigger picture was there, and that maybe we were too young to see it. But his environmentalism is something that incredibly has impacted my life, and something that I now I live by. I grow my own plants, I raise my own chickens, so I ride a motorcycle because it's environmentally friendly. So pretty much everything that he encompasses as a person is something that has rubbed off on me in a good way. So I just hope you guys can hear the great side of him and all of the amazing things that he's done for us. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you. Robert Lovelace.
Good evening. I have a favor to ask each of you, a request for each of you. Please fix a broken system. I was a teacher at College Park from 2007 to 2016. During that time, I can say that I felt bullied by my principal because of some things that I called him on the carpet on that I felt were unethical. Long story short, I was accused of some wrongdoing. My attorney at the time said, you know, it's not worth fighting this. Just plead guilty, roll over, resign. That's what I did. So I left the district in 2016. So I'm not going to stand here as a disgruntled employee, but I want you to think about, please, the students who are impacted. To this day, it haunts me that there are student grades that I wanted to change, I needed to change to passing grades from D's to F's, but those students had to go back and repeat an entire year of algebra because once I was told, okay, basically I was told not to have any contact with anyone ever again from the district once the accusations were made against me. So it haunts me that these special ed students had to sit through another year of school. I think about the hundreds of kids that are in Doug Scott's classroom, and they deserve having a qualified, excellent teacher there every day. You wouldn't like it if you walked into work and your boss said, oh, you know what, you're not getting paid today. That's basically what's happening to all those students every day. They're missing out on a day of education, they're missing out on a day of pay. That puts them another day behind in terms of their lives, their graduation, being good, upstanding students, or being contributing members of society. So I'm going to ask you, just fix a broken system. As As someone who's been in Doug Scott's shoes, I know what he's going through. It's not pleasant in the least. We've heard from plenty of others as far as the outstanding character he has. Again, I'm just gonna ask you to fix the broken system and think about the students.
Thank you very much. Those are all the cards we have, so if there aren't any other.
Yeah.
We have more cards. Would someone else like to speak?
Yes.
Hello. I'm a former student of his for freshman year. I actually graduated in 2018. So what I have to say about him is he's a great teacher. He's honestly the only science teacher who has taught me anything that I can remember to this day. He taught me about earthquakes, which I can actually remember, and his videos prove a lot of his theories. I don't know, the school system's so broken, why tear another teacher apart from it? And the students, if they want to be in his class, it's for a reason. They want to learn. And he does a great job teaching. Why strip another teacher away from that? Don't break the school system anymore. Fix it instead of breaking it. And just look at all these people that are here. There would have been more if more people knew about it. I know, sorry, I get nervous talking. I know a former student, I don't know if she's here, but thanks to her, I knew about this. And like I said, many more would have came. And he also teaches us about the school system in his own way. So, yeah.
Thank you very much. Brian Wilmot?
Wilmot.
Thank you for your time. A word that comes to mind is anagnorisis. I remember sitting in a classroom, probably not doing very well, and flunking out and going to summer school and sitting in a trailer. They're hot, they're sweaty, they've got those big windows, you have to pull a curtain. There's a little pinprick hole in this curtain. When I saw it was amazing. I was supposed to be watching this video, it was terribly boring. But projected on the wall was an image of what was actually outside. It was a naturally occurring chimaeroscuro. Doug Scott, he actually grew up in Australia, and he was playing ball with a friend. And all he knows is that he was tossing ball back and forth. His friend suddenly didn't catch it. All he knows is whatever he saw in his friend's face was mortal terror. He saw this, and so did his friend. They both ran. But his friend described him as a ball of lightning. It's a naturally occurring thing. Ions have to be just perfectly aligned. That was, for a long time, disputed in science. It was not until recently, actually, that it was recreated in a lab, and it's now a fact. So, what Doug did was anagnorisis, the opposite of ignorance. He made it a story, something you can relate to. And I'm proud to know him. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you everybody for coming down and for sharing your thoughts with us. We really appreciate it. That's what this is here for. So we are now adjourned and going into. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sure you wanted to. I'm going to share what's in the closed session agenda. So 3.1, item number 1, discipline, dismissal, release, or reassignment of public employee, Government Code Section 54957B11 case. 3.2, item number 2, anticipated litigation, conference with legal counsel pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9B, 4 cases. 3.3, item number 3, negotiations. The board may discuss negotiations or provide direction to its representatives. regarding represented employees pursuant to EERA, Government Code Section 3549.1. Agency negotiators, Dr. Robert Martinez.